Journal. I got Asheebo Rojas from the Chatham News and Record, and it is our weekly ChathamNC Sports Roundup. There you see our agenda for this morning's discussion. Going to take a review of last week's high school football games, take a look at the games going on this week. I did make a mistake. It's Seaforth at Southeast Alamance, not Southeast Alamance at Seaforth. That's my fault. We'll talk about power rankings, and then Asheebo's got what he's got coming up in the Chatham News and Record paper today. Lots of stuff there. Of course, Athlete of the Week. And then we'll go into the volleyball with the tournament championship games that went on, cross-country championship, high school soccer, and tennis. So it's going to be a whole bunch of stuff. And Asheebo's going to give you a whole bunch of information as to what's going on this week. So let me get rid of this header, and we will go to Asheebo. And they made some changes in the software, so it's taking me a little bit longer than usual to make the changes here. And there we go. And we will bring Asheebo up.
Yeah, so glad to be back for another week of our roundup. And like G said, we're going to start with football and a recap of what happened last Friday and a preview of what's to come tomorrow. So yeah, starting with Seaforth and Northmore. Both me and Gene were at that game. Was there in the second half. Northmore came in, a young team looking to build on their win streak. They got the job done against the Hawks there. I think in the first quarter, it was a tight game. Both teams, Seaforth actually struck first with a long touchdown pass to Jacob Winger, and both teams really battled it out there in the first half. But Northmore turned it up with some turnovers. They got 4 interceptions in that game, which were huge for them, and getting those extra possessions. Then in the second half, I mean, they really just ran the clock down with those long possessions. As you know, Northmore runs that wing tee offense, run heavy. They didn't pass the ball at all, and they just kind of wore Seaforth's defense down and won that one 38-20. And then another game we had last week, we had Northwood playing Graham at home, and kind of like a tune-up game for Northwood. That one, Robert Tripp led the way with 126 yards, 4 touchdowns on 12 carries. Junior quarterback Garrison Cox, he had completed 8 of 9 passes for 185 yards, and he also had 2 touchdowns, one thrown to Rajay Torres and the other thrown to Isaiah Blair. So great game for Northwood to go out there and take care of business against Graham. 69-2 was the final score of that one. And they also got 2 special team scores from that one. They got a punt return from Torres as well, and a kickoff return from Antoine Brewington. So, yeah, Northwood putting some work against the Red Devils there on Friday. Then we had Chatham Central. They took on Cummings on Friday. Fell victim to Cummings, wanted to attack in the rushing game with Witherspoon and Brisky, and they lost that one 56-0. And in that game, I mean, like we said, Chatham Central they just gave up 185 yards rushing on 12 total carries. The Cummings just pretty much got whatever they wanted in the run game. And I think Witherspoon and Brisky here, I wrote, they combined for 153 yards in that game. And they also gave up 125 yards and a touchdown to Cummings receiver Jaquay Robertson. So, yeah, tough game for Chatham Central against a really tough opponent in that one. And so, yeah, I mean, the Bears, I know, like we talked with Coach Little earlier in the season, trying to make the blowouts from last year a lot smaller. So that's what they've been doing a little bit this year. But, of course, playing this time of year against the tougher teams in the conference, it's a little harder for that squad to get it going. But, yeah, G?
Yeah, I was just going to add on that Northwood game, you did have a running clock in the second half because they had that 40-plus point advantage. Actually, they had that advantage in the first half. The only thing is you don't start a running clock till the second half. So they came out really strong against Graham. Graham, again, towards the bottom of the conference, so that really wasn't a surprise. And as you said, at that Seaforth game, Northmore just kept running the ball. Although Seaforth was successful in stopping and got possession after 4 down. So, I mean, they fought hard, but Northmore just, as you said, just kept running the ball and eating up time and eating up yardage, and they won that game. So that's my only comments as to the last week's games.
Yeah, and then just a preview of tomorrow's games. Of course, the biggest one is Northwood at Cummings. Northwood and Cummings playing for the second place spot in the conference. So Northwood has a automatic bid to the playoff on the line, although they're already in good positioning to make the playoffs at this point. And yeah, when I look at this game, two teams with really good offenses. Cummings more aligned on his run game. Northwood has a strong run game, but they've also shown they can throw the ball and get things going through the air as well. And so, yeah, I mean, when I'm looking at this game, I think Northwood, the biggest thing is just containing those two that we talked about, Witherspoon and Brisky. They've carried the load for Cummings in the rushing game pretty much all year. And I think I wrote down and looked at some of their stats from earlier this year. Those two have combined for over 250 rushing yards 4 times this season. So, yeah, that's going to be a focus, I'm sure, for Northwood. And then, yeah, physicality, I think, for the Chargers. Just, of course, defensive line-wise, which we've seen all year from the guys up front, led by A.J. Rowe-Mason, but also offensive line as well. Cummings has size. That's one thing we noticed when we saw them come down and play Jordan Matthews a couple weeks ago. They're a really big team with some size that can really cause some damage in the backfield. And they have some really good skill players as well. So Northwood's going to have a tough game on both sides of the ball. And I think if they win the physicality aspect, especially on the offensive side, and getting Robert Tripp going downhill, getting some good runs, I think they'll have a really good chance of knocking off Cummings at their spot and taking that second place. And then we also have Seaforth. They got another tough game going up to Southeast Alamance. And in this one, when I look at this game, of course, Southeast has been kind of too much for everyone in the conference this year. But I think Seaforth has a defense that can kind of, disrupt what Southeast Alamance has going on offensively. They like to switch it up and have a more balanced attack with rushing and passing. And we know Seaforth's defensive line, their defensive front, has been really good with getting penetration, getting in the backfield, tackles for losses, and short gains in the run game. So I think if they can force Southeast Alamance to throw the ball, put the ball at risk of turnovers, because we know Seaforth has really good DBs and Patrick Miller and Nick Gregory. Those guys are some ball hawks, and we've seen them get the ball all year. So they could bounce back, and make this game a lot more interesting than people would expect in this game. But the key is offensively, it's just limiting those turnovers there, because we saw it against Northmore. We saw it in other games this year. The turnovers have really hurt Seaforth in kind of building their lead or keeping up with teams in close games this year. So, yeah, I think, just limiting turnovers offensively, getting to them defensively would really help a lot against first place Southeast Alamance, who has looked like far and ahead the best team in the conference this season. And then we have Jordan Matthews hosting Bartlett Yancey Friday at 7:00. Jordan Matthews still unfortunately dealing with injuries. Kenneth Dula, I think, will be out for the season from what I'm hearing. And yeah, I mean, it's just another opportunity for Jordan Matthews, young guys, to come in, get that experience against Bartlett Yancey, which I think that, if Jordan Matthews is healthy, I think they'll really have a really good chance of winning this game. I even think with what they have now, they have a good chance of making this one close. But the Jets, just really hurting this year, and we just hoping for a speedy recovery for all their players that have been out this year, and I'm looking forward to seeing those guys back for next season if they do have another year under their belt. And then, go ahead, Gene.
Yeah, I was just going to add, totally agree with you. I think if JM wasn't hurt, that would be a very competitive game. But I think the hurt players, and then you said Abdullah, I think he is out for the season. So that's unfortunate, because if they had some of those injured players back, I think that would be a really interesting game. You're going to the Cummings game, aren't you?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Okay, I think that's going to be an interesting one. I think on the Seaforth's game, they may be able to slow down Southeast Alamance. You made some very good points about their defense, but I don't see them winning that game. So I think the folks, you need to follow Asheebo, because he is on X. It's Asheebo R38 on X, and he posts during the game. So you will see pictures, images, and he will update you on the score. So if you want to know what's going on during that Northwood Cummings game, that's where to follow him on X. I'm not doing any games this weekend. I've got other commitments Friday night. So just make sure to follow Asheebo. All right. You want to get into, are we done with football?
Not yet. I just wanted to talk about Chatham Central. They're playing No, actually, Chatham Central will have a bye this Friday before going to Northwood for their last game of the season on October 25th. So we won't see the Bears this Friday. But power rankings, just to run through right quick for the county, pretty much the same as last week. I have Northwood at 1, Seaforth at 2, Chatham Central at 3, and Jordan Matthews at 4. I think at this point, Northwood is going to they're pretty much going to stay at the top there as a team that has the best shot, to make the playoffs. And yeah, I mean, depending on how tomorrow goes, I mean, they pretty much control their destiny at this point. And yeah, I think that's all I have for football.
Actually, I do have one last question for you because we talked about this a little bit yesterday at the soccer game, the Northwood versus Seaforth soccer game. Playoffs, that's a lot of that stuff is starting to solidify. So, if my understanding is correct, based upon our conversation, it'd be the first 2 teams from our conference would be going to the playoffs, and then it all depends on how things are going. So, based upon what I'm hearing from you, you're thinking Northwood has a chance to get into the playoffs. Is that correct?
Yeah, so where Northwood is right now, I think they already placed themselves in position to make the playoffs. Now they're playing for an automatic bid and higher seeding. And of course, the game tomorrow with Cummings in second place. They have a chance of getting that second place spot. And then, of course, with how the rest of the season goes after that game, just to see if they can get that automatic bid and get placed higher for a better draw for that first round game.
All right, let me ask you another question. Based upon what we've seen Northwood playing, how important is it for them to start off with a strong start in tomorrow's game?
I mean, it's very important because we saw it. We've seen it in a couple of games this year, right? Especially that Seaforth game with the turnovers. That really kept Seaforth around enough to where they almost won that one at the end. And against Cummings, that's a team that probably won't turn the ball over as much as some of Northwood's other opponents. Because, like we said, they like to run the ball. And I think if they get a good start defensively, I can see them getting a good start defensively, but what's really the key is also getting a good start offensively and playing complementary football from the jump. And, because you don't want to get down too early against a team like Cummins at their place and, let the momentum take over early on. So I think keeping that game close or, just jumping out early themselves would really help Northwood a lot. In stealing that game from the Cavaliers.
All right, and you guys have Asheebo's power rankings. Again, I don't think anyone can argue with them at this point of the season. We're going to get into what Asheebo's got coming out in the paper. And the other thing I want to remind folks, we are streaming live on live stream on Facebook. I want to thank the folks that watch. Last couple of weeks, we've had about 800 of you watch us on Facebook and about 200 of you watch us on X. So thank you for doing that. Most of you watch us after we go live, but that is fine. At least you're watching. The other thing too is I am monitoring our Facebook stream. So if you like, you can make comments there. If we see comments, we will sometimes talk about those as well. So Asheebo, back to you.
Yeah, so this week in the paper, we have our another fall sports roundup for week 9. We have the volleyball regular season coming to an end, and also a rundown of some of the girls tennis players that qualify for regionals, and of course our other sports, boys soccer, girls golf, and cross country also has some results in there. And then we also have, like we said, our football roundup that we just went through. We have the story from Seaforth and Northmore on Seaforth's homecoming night on Friday. And then we have a story from Seaforth volleyball showdown with top-ranked Cardinal Gibbons last week that ended 3-0. I had to fix the headline on that one, that 3-1. And then, we also have a story coming out tomorrow online, but it is in the paper today. It's about the Cycle North Carolina's Mountains to Coast ride. Made their first ever stop in Pittsboro last week, and this is the first time they've stopped overnight in Chatham County since 2019. So we have more details on how that went. We talked to some of the bikers and some of the people that some people that were there that weren't bikers also showed up and took part of some of the festivities as well. And then, Gene, what did you want to go into next?
Okay, well, of course, the player of the week. I'm serious. A lot of people comment about players of the week, and when Asheebo posts on X, I noticed that folks repost that. So we congratulate every week the players of the week, and we appreciate the folks out there the student athletes who participate and are the athlete of the week. So, Asheebo, who is this week's athlete of the week and why?
This week's athlete of the week is from C4 football. Actually, it's Jacob Winger. He earns athlete of the week this week, and I kind of had it in my mind when I saw. I know Gene had missed it, but his first quarter against Northmore, like I said, C4 really got off to a good start, and Jacob Winger was a big reason for that. He caught four. I think in the first quarter, I think he had 3 passes over 100 yards and a touchdown. Ended the night with four catches, 135 yards. And his 1 touchdown. Of course, he scored on the first play from scrimmage on a 64-yard completion. I think that was intended for Max Hinchman, but he made the heads-up play, catching the tip and taking it all the way to the house. And then later on that quarter, he had a big game for, I think, 40 yards that set Seaforth up for good positioning as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think talking to Terrence Gary, the head coach at Seaforth, with the receiver Noah Williams being out for that game, Winger stepped up and had a bigger load to carry in the receiving core, and he answered the bell in the first quarter and really gave them a good chance to pack on some more points and build their lead there early in the game. So even though Seaforth lost, we do want to give a nod to Jacob Winger for his standout performance in that game.
All right, so Jacob, congratulations on that win. Jacob's our Asheebo's athlete of the week. Again, if you pick up a copy of the paper, Jacob, have your folks pick up a copy of the paper so they can cut it out and put it on the refrigerator door. All right, high school volleyball. That's getting interesting because, as you mentioned, Seaforth played over at Cardinal Gibbons, but there was a conference tournament for Mid Carolina, and also Chatham Charter and Woods Charter were in their conference playoffs. They played as well. So give us a rundown of what's going on in women's volleyball, as well as what your unofficial power rankings, as well as what you see coming in for which teams in Chatham County are going to make it to the state playoffs.
Yeah. So last night we had our two conference tournament championships in volleyball. For Mid Carolina, 1A, 2A, we had Seaforth winning another conference tournament championship 3-0 over Northmore. And then over in the Central Tar Heel 1A conference, we had Woods Charter beating Chatham Charter 3-0 for that title as well. And then, I mean, volleyball getting down to now we're in this season for the playoffs starting pretty soon here. I think next week, Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, Seaforth, they'll be a top seed in the 2A East side. Woods Charter looking to be pretty high as well in the Central Tar Heel. In the 1A East side as well. So, as far as power rankings and after the regular season and the conference tournaments, I have Seaforth as my top team. Woods Charter coming in at second. Chatham Central at third. Chatham Charter at fourth. Northwood at fifth. And Jam at sixth. And actually, I haven't checked to see, exactly where everyone is in the RPI today. I should have looked at it, but.
All right. While you're looking that up, I just want to say I definitely agree with the power rankings. I got to had an opportunity to see Woods play 2 times this week. They played against River Mill, which does not have a winning record. So they beat those folks handily 3-0. And then yesterday they played Chatham Charter, and Chatham Charter, I think, is number 2 in the conference. And they won that one 3-0 as well. That game was very competitive. Both Chatham Charter, and people sometimes ask me, who's my favorite Chatham County team? Folks, I love when I get to cover a game where there's 2 Chatham County teams. I want both of them to do well. And I think if you had gone out and watched Chatham Charter play against Woods Charter in that championship game, you would have gotten your money's worth. Both teams played hard. There were several times they were just volleying back and forth, and some of the returns that both teams made, you're like, wow, that's really good ball. I got to talk to Amanda, who's the coach at the Woods Charter, and the interesting thing about that is they lost a couple of players to Seaforth. They're a fairly young team, but they've managed to be undefeated this season, and she's proud of where that team's gone. And the thing that I've noticed, and I think Asheebo's noticed this as well, is the Woods players talk to each other a bunch while they're playing. I think there was, in yesterday's game, I think there was only one case where someone didn't call the ball and it fell in between two players. Otherwise, they're talking to each other as to who's got the ball, who it's going to, and for a young team, they've done especially well this year. So, Chatham Charter, congratulations! You guys did get to the championship game, and Woods Charter, congratulations on being undefeated in the conference for the season. And the other thing too, and Asheebo and I have talked about this several times, is the fact that good teams will play stronger teams out of conference just so they can get that experience, thinking again forward to the playoffs. And that was one of the things Amanda had mentioned as well when I talked to her, is that they have played non-conference, higher conference games just to get that ability and that experience. So that is good to see. That's all I've got to say on volleyball. You got anything else on volleyball before you? I think cross country is next, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on cross country.
Well, yeah. And one more thing about volleyball, and like you said, Woods Charter ended up both Woods and Seaforth, I think, ended the season undefeated in conference play. I mean, both kind of had the same approach. Take some losses in non-conference, play those tough games there, and they come to conference, take care of business, and went out there. And just in the 2A East RPI standings as of now, Seaforth is listed as the sixth team there, Northwood at 30th. So those two are looking to make it on the 2A East side. And then here on the 1A East side, we have Woods Charter, the highest county team, landing at 13th. And then Chatham Charter at 26th. And then we have Chatham Central at 29th. So we have three county teams looking to make the playoffs there on the 1A East side when they do the seeding. I think tomorrow. I think bracketing is tomorrow, October 18th. So we'll know pretty soon where all the teams will land for the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, and just a reminder, folks, remember, follow Asheebo on X. He posts a lot of stuff out there. Read the paper on Thursdays. But again, if you want to stay up to date as to what's going on, because I know you usually post that kind of stuff out there. So if you want to see what I will also do on the ChathamNC X account, I'll repost what Asheebo does. So Asheebo does a great job covering the county, and he knows a lot of folks in the county. So if you see him out there, say, hey. All right, are we ready to go into cross country now?
Yep, cross country. They had their conference tournaments, conference championship meets this week as well. And then in the Mid Carolina 1A, 2A, Seaforth showed up, had another really good conference meet. They won their fourth straight conference titles for both boys and girls. So hats off to what they've been able to accomplish after being open for just so long. And then on the boys' side, our individual conference champion was Seaforth's Jack Anstrom. He finished first for his fourth consecutive title with a time of 17 minutes and 8 seconds. Then on the girls' side, we had Julia Hall from Northwood finishing first for that one with a time of 20 minutes and 39 seconds. And then in the Central Tar Heel 1A individual girls' side, we had a county winner. When the title there was Anna Peeler, who finished first with a time of 22 minutes and 5.10 seconds. And then team standings in the Central Tar Heel 1A conference meet for the boys, Woods Charter came in second, Chatham Charter came in third, and then on the girls' side, Woods Charter took the title over Triangle Math and Science, as they were the only two teams listed to be ranked for the conference title standing. So, yeah, our county, they're really good at Woods Charter this season. So I think they'll have regionals coming up soon. And Seaforth's coach sent me a lot of good stuff about what's going on with Seaforth going on pretty soon. Let me pull that up and just let you guys know about it. Yeah, Coach Mitchell always sends some great information on the team in great detail and lets us know what's going on. So, the rundown with the conference the conference titles. And then the boys, I think he said the men's team will compete next week. Actually, not next week, on Saturday in Mechanicsville, Virginia, for the Virginia Cross Country Showcase before they head out to compete in the 2A Mid-East Regional Championship at Wake Med Soccer Park in Cary next Saturday, October 26th. So still some big things coming up for Seaforth Cross Country before they get into the state postseason. We could be looking for some more state championships from the guys like Jack Anstrom, maybe Will Quickie, and maybe some on the girls' side as well here in the county that might be competing for the top spot in the state.
Yeah. The only thing I'm going to add to that is if folks are interested in seeing him compete next Saturday at Wake, at the Wake location, that's actually a good place to watch races going on. A lot of parking out there. The setup is usually pretty spectator friendly. They have lines so that you don't run in front of the runners, but it's a good chance to see the winners up close, and not just from Chatham County, but from all across the state. So if you have an opportunity, don't have anything going on, Asheebo will have the information out as to when that's going on. And hey, if it's a nice Saturday, why not go out and see the student athletes compete? Well, that's all I've got on cross country. Then we've got soccer coming up. What's going on in soccer?
Yeah. So in soccer, last night we had Seaforth Northwood do their rematch after the 1-1 double overtime tied last week, and Seaforth came out on top 3-1 in that one. We got a goal from Logan Sparrow, and he also had, I think, 2 assists and a goal for Caleb Serrano, and another one for Zane McMahon. So, and of course, another great game from Jack Hayes in the goal, their goalkeeper, keeping Northwood at just one goal that they scored earlier in the game, and after that, that was it. But yeah, Seaforth early in the week, Seaforth did take a 8-0 loss to Clinton. That's a tough opponent that they were playing against. But yeah, we kind of have some chaos in boys soccer this season, especially with Jordan Matthews as of recently. So Jordan Matthews, is now with 2 conference losses after losing to Graham last week, and then this week they took a loss to Southeast Alamance 5-3. You guys remember Southeast Alamance came to Jordan Matthews. I think that's one of the top seeds in the conference, or I think they were the second, right behind Jordan Matthews, and that was a big game. And Jordan Matthews beat them pretty handily, 5-0. So Southeast Alamance, got revenge on that loss and have made things interesting. They've now taken the first place spot from Jordan Matthews, who's down here at the towards the end of the season, is at risk of not finishing first in the conference for quite a while. So interesting race here we have between Southeast Alamance and Jordan Matthews. Jordan Matthews has to play Graham again, who is at 4-2-1 and third place in the conference. Seaforth is slowly climbing up as well. They're at 4th and can even play for that third spot. They will play Graham again as well, I think. No, they won't play Graham again. They've played Graham twice. I think they tied the first time, and they actually beat Graham the second time. So if Seaforth can win out, if Graham, maybe loses another game, Seaforth, like we said, can very well take that third place spot and get maybe even higher seeding in the state playoffs.
There we go. All right. So playoff wise, I guess what do you JM's definitely going to be making it to the playoffs. How about the other schools?
I have not looked at the RPI standings as of now, but yeah, Jordan Matthews is in good standing because I think at this point they're either going to finish first or second place in the conference to get the automatic bid. But yeah, I mean, we talked about Jordan Matthews a lot this season, how it's a younger team, a lot different from last year and the years prior. But even in the rebuild year, they're still doing really well for themselves, 8-2 in the conference, and then they still have a chance to finish up on top. So looking at the 2A East RPI standings, Jordan Matthews is at 14th, right behind Southeast Alamance at 13. And then we have Seaforth climbing up to 22 in the playoff standings, and Northwood right outside of the playoff picture right now at 34. And then on 1A East, just checking on Woods Charter. I know Chatham Charter is likely not in the running. Woods Charter is at 25, so they're kind of in the middle of the pack there for the playoff seeding. So looks like we're going to have a couple of teams getting into the state playoffs once the regular season ends.
Yeah, Woods Charter has been kind of inconsistent. I think they're better than last season, but they had a game earlier this week that they lost. I'm going to bring this up real quick. This was from last night. at the game. It was definitely blanket weather. We're into the fall season. It's not quite winter, but the spectators had their blankets out in sweatshirts. It did get a little cold, and actually, one of the refs on the field was wearing. Actually, all the refs were wearing shorts, and I asked one of them, "Aren't you cold?" And they're like, "Yes, but you get used to it." So fall is here, and it's getting colder.
Yeah. Yep. And well, before we go, there was one more thing I want to run down was the regional qualifiers from girls tennis as well that we didn't get to. And yeah, regionals for individual tennis start tomorrow and go into Saturday. 1A East for Woods, Chatham Charter, um, Chatham Central. They will be at Herman Park in Goldsboro, and then 2A Mid East for C4 Jordan Matthews and Northwood. They will be at Flaherty Park in Wake Forest for their regionals. So just our qualifiers, which, like I said, are listed in the fall sports roundup. We have okay. Yep. We'll have for the Mid Carolina 1A 2A conference, just on the 1A single side, we'll have Carly Callahan and Emma Burke. They qualified from Chatham Central. And then on the 2A singles, we have Lillian McFall, Ella Gentile from Seaforth, and also Andy Wicker from Northwood qualifying. 2A doubles from the county, we have Bailey Shadowan and Claire Cody from Seaforth, Jenna Robinette and Mackenzie Luhu from Seaforth, also qualifying for the doubles on the 2A side. And then from the Central Tar Heel 1A conference, well, just Chatham Charter. I misspoke and say Woods Charter. Only Chatham Charter from the county was in the conference this year. For singles, we'll have Jordan Garner representing the Knights, and then doubles, Mac Allen and Maggie Moody will be competing for a spot in the state tournament for Chatham Charter. So those are our county girls tennis regionals qualifiers. We'll see definitely with dual team coming up as well alongside individuals. See if we have some state champions in girls tennis this year. I know we got really close last year. I think we had one individual, I want to say from Chatham Charter, make it to the finals, but just fell short. So we'll see if we'll have any county tennis players holding up some first place trophies and state championships this year.
All right. And I also want to make folks aware high school basketball season isn't too far away. Asheebo is working on rounding up and writing up some stories on basketball preview for the high school season. The other thing, too, is that a lot of folks noticed Drake Powell is over playing at UNC. He was at the Memphis game, and I know a lot of folks were posting images of that. I think Cam Fowler's mom posted. She's not a UNC fan; she's a Duke fan, but she posted that she was happy to see Drake out there playing ACC basketball. Also, I cannot say anything about this. Asheebo's working on a special story for the basketball season. You'll see that coming out, and when Asheebo's ready to talk about it, he'll let you know what that story is about. So see, he's smiling because it's going to be a good story. People are definitely going to want to pick up the paper and read about it once he gets that story out there. But he's already thinking forward to basketball season, and we'll be hitting that in a few weeks. But right now, we're trying to wrap up fall sports. The question we always come up towards the end is, where is Asheebo and Gene going to be for next week? I honestly don't know yet. How about you, Asheebo?
Yeah, so I'm of course I'll be at Cummins for the Northwood game tomorrow for football. Next week I do plan on hitting some volleyball playoffs as those get started. So I think I'll be at a second round game on Thursday. Should some of our county teams make it? And I'm pretty confident we'll have some county teams make it to the second round. So yeah, that's where I'll be. It just depends on who's moving through and along in the playoffs, and also too maybe boys soccer. Like I said, it's getting crazy here in the conference as things get shaken up here at the end of the season. So it's going to be some big boys soccer games coming up in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I want to let folks know we got good feedback on Coach Little being on the Roundup a few weeks ago. We tried to get someone else for this week. Didn't work out. We may have a coach come on next week as well. We're not making any commitments, but we are reaching out to coaches. If there's any coaches that want to, just reach out to us. We'll let you know what we need to do to get you on here. The feedback when Coach Little appeared was good. Coach Little felt very comfortable about doing it, and we had viewers that said, "Hey, they appreciated seeing him on here as well." It was a little bit longer than the stuff that, again, Asheebo. If you missed the soccer games yesterday, Asheebo did talk with the coach and a couple of the players after the soccer game, and you can see those on X. So if you're not on X already, get on X, follow Asheebo R38 because he does put out little video clips as well at the end of the game. So that's definitely worthwhile. Anything else, Asheebo, before we wrap it up today?
Nope, I think we got it all covered.
All right, folks, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next Thursday. And again, follow Asheebo on X or ChathamNC on X, and we'll have more information coming out on volleyball and anything else. And as Asheebo said, we'll let you know where we are next week covering different sports. I think there's a couple of good football games coming up, local football games coming up next Friday, and we'll have more information on that as well. Everyone, thank you for watching. Asheebo, as always, thank you for being on. And if you see him out there, just say, "Hey, I appreciate what you're doing," because Asheebo is doing a fantastic job covering sports here in Chatham County. Everyone, thank you so much for watching.